L-għodwa tajba, aħna għedina għek l-Għadira Reserve, Għalja u jiena Nimrod Mifsud. Nixtieq nirringrazzjawkom li qed tarawna daqshekk minni fil-għodu. Illum li internazzjonalment huwa World Migratory Bird Day. Huwa il-jum tat-tajr migratorju tal-passa. U nixtiequ ngħidu Happy Mother's Day, jum l-om tajjeb lil-ommijiet il-ħadd. Good morning, guys. We are here, Għadira Nature Reserve. We're going to speak in Maltese and in English, so don't be alarmed or worried that you're not going to understand the word. Għalja is a licensed ringer, one of my dear friends. Me, Nimrod Mifsud, I'm just a chatterbox. And we're here on World Migratory Bird Day. Malta, as you know, most birds we get are migratory and crucial, migration flyway. And we're going to say, obviously, Happy Mother's Day for the mums tomorrow on Sunday. And so even the bird life move, the bird move, what's the...
It's we have a campaign at the moment, and it's on the move.
On the move.
So we are promoting migration and encouraging people to go out, watch birds, enjoy nature, and learn more about birds. So today we are doing a live ringing session. We have some birds which we have caught this morning in our nets, in our net round. As Nimrod said, I am a licensed ringer as part of the BirdLife Malta ringing scheme, and we do this study throughout the year with an emphasis on migration to monitor the migrating birds. So we'll start with the first bird. This bird is a willow warbler. Bil-Malti dan l-asfur jissejja violin safrani. Dan il-specimen, this individual, inserta mhux safrani ħafna, pjuttost gris, anzi pjuttost skur. Però dawn l-asafar varjaw.
Ħanna l-bnedmin fil-verità, l-kulur issib ċertu popolazzjonijiet speċi li minnaħa l-oħra tkun taf li dan huwa ta' il-vant pereżempju, dan huwa tal-punent, huwa l-istess speċi pereżempju nek. Fasafar.
L-asafar varjaw kif qed tajt inti, eżempju dan jista' jkun li dan asfur huwa tal-East, tan-North-East, għax normalment il-willow warblers tal-Ewropa huma iżbaħ, huma iktar safranin, iktar ħadranin. Varjaw normalment kif qed tajt inti skont ir-reġjun li jiġu minnu. Allura ħaġa li nagħmlu huwa li nitfgħu ċ-ċurkett fuq is-sieq tal-asfur fuq in-naħa t'isfel tissejjaħ tarsus. Iċ-ċurkett huwa magħmul minn materjal ħafif ħafna u jista' jdur u jitlaw jinżel biex ma l-asfur ma jweġġawx jew ma jkunx jista' jinqabad ma' xi zokk jew ma' xi ħaġa. Fuq iċ-ċurkett hemm unique number li l-asfur jagħmlu unique u għandu wkoll address fil-Kastana BirdLife Malta Valletta biex ikun unique globalment ukoll u biex jekk dan l-asfur jerġa' jinstab kemm Malta ma speċjalment barra ikunu jafu fejn għandhom jirrapurtaw dan l-asfur. Kull ħaġa li nagħmlu nieħdu nota tagħha biex imbagħad indaħluha fid-database tagħna.
Dan importanti anke jekk l-asfur jinstab mejjed li jkollu ċurkett, għax dan huwa għarfien li l-asfur qed ipassi, dan huwa asfur tal-passa. U aħna illum hija World Migratory Bird Day huwa kruċjali li qed tisimgħu hawnhekk hawn il-fra servienti kellna kuċċarda għaddiet uħolġu il-passa mhux biss safar żgħar. So, just to recap in English for our non-Maltese speakers, first of all, good morning guys all over the world. This is a willow warbler, quite nice. It is grayer, browner than what we normally get, so possibly could be from the east, most likely. A little one, and will migrate. Where would it range be, Nick?
It depends. These go from central, mid-central to northern Europe, and even to places like Siberia, etc.
So you see that.
So this bird that weighed 11.1 grams has spent the winter in tropical Africa, crossed the Sahara Desert, is now crossing the Mediterranean, and this isn't going to breed somewhere in Europe,
Possibly,
somewhere
exactly.
possibly quite far.
That is unbelievable. I'm always amazed. Oh, wow.
The second bird we have today,
Nice.
another quite simple bird. It's called the garden warbler, beccafik in Maltese. Beccafik coming from the Italian because it eats fig. It eats.
Loves figs.
The skull was the moorhen, gallot tax-xitwa, which is a resident bird. It's not a migratory bird.
Gallot siswet. Exactly. It's one of our local rare breeding species, the moorhen. Not a common bird that you'd find in any pond or water source, because Malta is not an island full of these habitats. So it's a bird that breeds here, Samar, and now in a few other places, even quarries that have filled in with water, and will be more prolific, especially if not disturbed in spring, the moorhen. But yes, the garden warbler, beccafik, coming from the Maltese name is coming from the Italian name, from the Italian. Becco is beak or to peck at, and fig.
So this bird, I'll explain the full ringing process. The next bird, let's see what it is.
It's always like Christmas, I always say. It always surprises, never know what you're gonna get.
So this is another garden warbler. So the first erringer does is, of course, identify the bird. Some birds are very easy to identify, some birds need a bit more practice and a bit more, you need to look into more detail. The garden warbler is a very simple bird. It doesn't have any particular features except for its overall color, size, bill shape, etc.
That's where these books come in. These books are crucial, sorry Nick,
Yeah, right.
when you're not sure what the bird, or knowledge is power, so continue it, because this is scientific. Nick is a licensed ringer, and this is a constant process of knowledge, so please continue.
So once you identify the species, then you can put the ring on the bird, because we have different sized rings, which of course you need to know the species to know what ring to put on the bird. As I said before, the ring is unique. It's called a split ring, so it is semi-open, and then we close it using these special pliers with holes for each ring size. The ring, it's important that you choose the correct ring size so the ring can go up and down and around. We write the species. We try to determine, if possible, the age and the sex of the bird, typically from the way the bird looks and from the condition of the feathers. In this case, this bird, the garden warbler, both adults and young birds molt, which means they grow new feathers in their wintering grounds, which is Africa, which means that they are, all of the garden warblers look the same when they are coming back north. We then take some biometrics, some biological measurements. We start with the wing. In this case it's 81 millimeters. We blow to check for fat. So in this case we give a score. The fat is the yellowish color, the yellowish tissue you see beneath the skin. It's called subcutaneous fat, which acts as fuel for the birds. The birds eat a lot before they are going to migrate. Sometimes they even double their weight before migrating. Some studies shown that before migration, when the days start getting longer or shorter, some new hormones are released, which make them hungry, basically, and they can't stop eating, basically. And then when they migrate, they use that as fuel without needing to stop. And final thing is we weigh them. We put them in the pot for a couple of seconds to determine the weight. The weight, together with the fat and the size of the bird, gives us an indication of how fit the bird is for migration. In this case, this bird weighs 16.5 grams. A bird which is full of fat sometimes can weigh 28 grams of the same garden warbler.
It's quite amazing and remarkable, and that's why it's important to see the fat and muscle content of the bird. So what's the least amount and what's the most amount, Nick?
So it is a score from 0 basically, which is no fat, to 8, which is the full amount of fat. In spring, typically birds have less fat than in autumn because birds are coming from a longer distance.
Yes, crossing the Sahara too.
In terms of distance, it's much longer.
Oh, that is...
So this is another species of bird. It's a Sedge Warbler. It's called a Sedge Warbler because it's like to stay in the sedges, which are these bushes found in wetlands and in valleys, etc.
We're surrounded by life. Birds calling, quite stunning, and flying about, even ringed plovers and little ringed over here. In Maltese, is it Bufula tassimar?
Yes, I think so. I think so.
I think that's the name too.
These warblers, they used to be called Baal in Maltese instead of Bufula. Now they are called Bufula, all of them.
Bufula means warbler.
So as you can see, it's highly camouflaged. It has these markings, which when it is moving around in the bushes, it's not easy to see. The wings are quite rounded as well, so it can easily maneuver around on the vegetation just above the water.
Little ring. What I wanted to say is most people that are, let's say, into the wildlife, going into the countryside and spotting birds, or even having a camera and taking photography, photos of wildlife, they might see this and think it looks like a Zitting cisticola, on steroids. That's what they might think the bird is. I've had people think that. Zitting cisticola in Maltese, the name, I'm trying to remember.
Bufula tal-imroħa.
Tal-imroħa, yes. Bufula tal-imroħa, which is fan-tailed warbler, which was the old English name, wasn't it?
Yes.
But names change because we're learning more things, and that's the beauty, all through ornithology and knowledge.
So we have another Sedge Warbler.
What amazes me always is these birds are crossing continents to get to their breeding site, and in spring, it is crucial that they arrive in a certain finite time, isn't it? Whilst in autumn they can take their time migrating down to their wintering grounds. Is it because...
Yes, in spring most birds are in a hurry to get to the breeding grounds first. It's a competition, sort of, especially for the males. Those who get there first can get the best habitat and
exactly
attract females so they can breed.
I mean, literally, the early bird catches the worm, or the early bird gets the girl, or the territory. See, I love birds.
So these birds, they are insectivorous birds. They feed mostly on aphids and small, even sometimes you see them pick at small insects that are caught in webs, in spider webs.
Quite amazing, adapted to eating such small insects, because you wouldn't think that eat bigger insects, but this is amazing adaptation. Nature is full of these amazing wonders. Finding niches, look, the markings are quite stunning.
Yes, this is a bit more buffish than the other one as well. But again, these birds, you can't tell if they are adult birds, young birds, or females or males just by looking at them, because they look the same basically. This one doesn't want to get weighed.
A bit shy, I guess. But you had started a diet.
10.8 grams. Of course, the most important part of bird ringing is that once you are ready, once you process the bird, you let it go immediately back in the same habitat where it was caught.
And that, exactly, this is not trapping, this is ringing. You ensure that the bird is released.
I have another Sedge Warbler here.
So there's been a push of Sedge Warblers coming through, I guess.
Yes, through ringing, when you are just bird watching, you will see less number of passerines, because when you see a passerine and you see, these birds are called passerines, small birds. When you see one on a bush and then you see it, you think it's the same one. When you are ringing,
you know it.
You can have a better, because the effort is the same, so you can better know the amount of birds you are sampling.
Gives you exactly an idea of the amount of birds migrating.
Yes, because you can compare a whole week, for example. So if yesterday we didn't catch any Sedge Warblers, and today we caught Sedge Warblers, we can say that today, for some reason, conditions were better for Sedge Warblers to migrate, or they were less ideal, so they had to stop.
Yes, not continue their migration. And you as a ringer, and you've been doing this for years, and absolute passion for this discipline, this science. Have you noticed, for example, that a certain species is not recorded in the mist nets, and then that day you start with the species and you'll have...
Yes, you have that, especially when you are monitoring an entire spring season, or even autumn, but spring is compressed. So the migration is compressed basically in a couple of months, March, April, and the first maybe 10 days of May. Because as we said, birds are in a hurry. This is another Sedge Warbler, but it has a ring already.
Quite stunning. That's called a control.
36294. We call it a retrap or a control. 36294. So basically, now we can compare when this bird was first caught, and we take some measurements again, and we can compare whether it did well in terms of food, and whether if the weight got increased, so it found food, and we can determine. For example, all the previous Sedge Warblers weighed under 11 grams. This one weighs 13.5 grams,
so it's
which is 2 grams more. Which on 13 grams, 2 grams is a good percentage, which means that these the time it spent here, it did well on food.
That's brilliant.
Of course, we compare with the same bird.
One important thing that I always like to emphasize and say is these rings are ornithological rings, not closed rings that you'd find in the exotic pet trade captive bred birds. Totally different, and it's crucial if you're going to buy a bird pet trade, it has to have a closed ring showing that it wasn't stolen from the wild. These rings are not those. These rings are ornithological rings that these birds were ringed and studied. Oh, this is a beautiful.
This is a wood warbler.
Beautiful wood warbler.
It's a different species. It's one of the most common species we ring at this time of the year. It's one of the not smallest birds because it's quite long-winged, but it is from a family where these birds are a bit smaller than the others. They have thinner and finer legs. They spend most of the time in canopies. They are called leaf warblers as well. In fact, their color is to blend in the foliage found on top of trees, hitting the sun, and to camouflage is very important in birds. Again, this bird, we cannot say if it's a male or a female. Some birds of the same species are brighter than the others, but it doesn't mean that it's a young bird or an adult bird. This bird is ringed already, so what we'll do is we'll take note of the ring, weigh it, and let it go.
I wanted to say for our Maltese-speaking audience, what's the name of this bird in Maltese?
This is Violin Hadrani.
Hadrani, yes.
52p, 550.
Violin Hadrani li passi jaqsam il-reġjun ċentrali tal-Afrika, jaqsam id-deżert tas-Sahara, jaqsam il-Mediterran, biex ibejjed dan anka sal-Finlandja, tal-postijiet fil-Russja, fis-siġar u jħomp l-ambjent fej jgħix u jikkaċċja siġar qed ngħidu bl-Ingliż jgħidulhom broadleaf tal-weraq kbar u weraq mhux bħal żnuber qed ngħidu aħna imma bħal ballut, luq, fraxnu, daw it-tip ta' siġar.
Żnuber tara ħafna dan l-asfur Malta, ġifieri il-żnuber meta tkun għadha siġra mhux kbira, ħafna drabi ma tantx tattira safar għax.
Imma meta
Għax bażikament ma fiex ħafna weraq ma tantx ikun fiha insetti. Però dan l-asfur wieħed mill-safar li tara ħafna jiddendel magħha u jirnexxielu jsib li kelm hemmhekk.
Sewwa tajt, iħomp jiddendel jagħmel ċertu meta taraħ fuq tajt il-lallu dal-asfur vera interessanti ħelu jisu xadina ma' s-siġra joqgħod li sejjed mal-friaj.
Dan huwa asfur tal-istess speċi wkoll, Wood Warbler, bħalissa huwa l-iktar asfur numerus. Għandu ċurkett dan ukoll.
U ċurkett, tinsowx, dawn iċ-ċurkett Malta wkoll kienu rringjati. Jekk insab asfur li ċurkett ġie ngħidu jekk naf mill-Ġermanja, jew ir-Renju Unit. Skużawni. Dak ifisser li dan kien irringjat sena li għaddiet jew ta' qabel, imma mhux fl-Afrika, anke ssib xi ċurkett mill-Afrika rari nassumi ringing schemes.
Din il-passa diġà kellna 3 safar.
Il-lallu.
Minn pajjiżi barranin.
U tinsowx, minn l-eluf ta' safar li nirringjaw, ftit qatra li jerġgħu jinqabdu bil-ċurkett. Spjeganna, Nick.
This year we had 3 controls. We call these birds coming when we catch birds from witterings from abroad. We call them controls.
So the ones we've seen now have all been ringed in Malta, and recently could be from yesterday or a week ago.
This is ringed as well, a white throat.
Yes.
So basically we had a garden warbler, which was ringed in Slovenia. We still need to get information about it. We got it from Comino last week. 496. We had a swallow from Slovakia.
Wow.
Caught from Għadira Nature Reserve. And we had a tripipit with a ring from Greece, caught in near Rabat, which shows how ringing tells us where our birds are coming from.
So this call, Nick.
That's the Sedge Warbler.
Yes, that's our lovely Sedge Warbler. Could have been one that we have just ringed. Saying hello again. And this is the most, humane, safest way for the bird that is to weigh it in the dark and in a confined space, not tight obviously. It feels calm and safe.
So this is a white throat. It's a young bird. We can tell it's young bird because the feathers are quite worn out. These are called the primaries. As you can see, the tips of some of them are worn out. They are worn out with use because these are old feathers. The new feathers will be much fresher and much nicer. We can also tell, for example, from the amount of white on the tail, which when it changes the tail has more white. And this probably is a female as well, because the male has a grayer head and
reddish or buff here, more vibrant.
And even the eye color is different. And typically males migrate earlier as well. So the late birds usually are females.
So don't forget, males are show-offs. Females are smart because they have to be as cryptic as possible when incubating the eggs. Okay? If they're showy, then predators can easily find them. Ħonet nitkellmu fuq la safar, mhux biss fuq kif ovvjament il-proċess tpoġġa ċurkett fuqhom. Imma normalment in-nisa huma l-kuluri tagħhom mhux daqshekk jgħajtu, mhux vivaċi, għax l-evoluzzjoni jridu huma joqogħdu roqqa fuq il-bajt, fil-bejta. Jekk inti għandek kuluri jgħajtu ħafna minnhom, ma l-ewwel isibu l-predatur l-raġel imma jrid impressjona bl-anja u bil-kulur tiegħu biex juri s-saħħa u l-abilità kemm hu tajjeb biex ikattar għal-ġejjini l-speċi. Ara, dan ġdid dal-asfur?
Dan l-asfur jissejjaħ zanzarell, bl-Ingliż spotted flycatcher. Huwa asfur pjuttost sempliċi u għalija huwa asfur gustus ħafna.
Għandu karattru,
Għandu karattru, eżatt.
ġonna Maltin tmur f'xi ġonna ċnim pubbliku.
Dan huwa asfur li jbejjet Malta. Ġifieri dawn li jkunu għaddejjin bħalissa ma jkunux ta' Malta, dawn jkunu sejrin iktar fin-nord. Però dan l-asfur eventwalment imbagħad jaslu dawk li jbejtu Malta. Għandu saqaħ huma pjuttost żgħar. Fil-fatt il-post fejn qiegħdu x-xurket mhuwiex twil bħal ta' safar oħra, u mbagħad għandu l-ġwienaħ pjuttost twal komparat ma' safar oħra.
It-tarsius jissejjaħ dak
It-tarsus huwa pjuttost qasir, eżatt.
bil-qasba.
Prattikament dan l-asfur saqaħ jużhom biss biex joqgħod fuq xi skuk, fuq xi perches biex iħares u mbagħad jaqbad l-insetti bil-ġwienaħ on the fly.
Flajru ġifieri, u jaqbadhom.
Jaqbadhom flajru.
Jaqbdu. Naqsek jaqbad l-insett. Spotted flycatcher.
Il-true evolution la safar il-shape tagħhom tul iż-żmienijiet jinbidel biex jiffavorixxi dak li huma adattati biex jagħmlu. Fil-fatt ukoll għandu dawn la safar li jaqbdu l-insetti meta jkunu in flight, ħafna drabi jkollhom il-mustaċċi pjuttost iktar prominenti biex meta jiftħu ħalqhom ikunu qed iżidu s-surface area
U l-asfur
biex il-priża tagħhom l-insett ikollu iktar fejn jinqabad.
L-asfur jaqbad daqshekk l-insett. Bħal il-buqraj ukoll tinnota hekk u vera l-buqraj.
Il-buqraj għandu mustaċċi pjuttost kbar.
Dak huwa asfur li jikkaċċja biss waqt li qed itir. Ir-rundun ukoll ikollu hekk.
Ikollhom iva, ikollhom.
Għax
U jkollhom ħalq ukoll
Iva.
kbir, jiġri meta jiftħu ħalqhom ikun pjuttost.
U issa naraw runduni fl-irħula tibdaw bejtu bħal San Ġiljan ta' Slima, il-Gżira, jiena mill-Gżira. Hemmhekk. Hemm popolazzjoni ta'
Sedge Warbler ieħor.
Naraw. Sedge
Eżempju f'dan il-każ il-munqar huwa ħafna iktar fin għax ikun qed jużah mhux biex jaqbad la safar in flight imma biex
il-bufula tas-simar. Il-pjanta, simar hija pjanta li tgħix l-ilma sal-mastru u tiflaħ ukoll il-melħ. Kienu sajjida kienu jibnu dawk in-nases għal-ħut mis-simar, kienu jaqlaw werqa.
sharp rush
Sharp rush.
bl-Ingliż.
Taf sa nagħmel għandek naqa accessory, rixa u r-rix tinkwitawx. Fin-natura anke mal-frija jew hekk jinqalaw ir-rix. Mbagħad jerġgħu jikbru bħal maħna tħokk xarek u taqa' xara.
Anzi ċertu għasafar ikollhom ir-rix ta' zaqqhom eċċetera. Ikun jinqala qishom malajr apposta biex jekk imur xi predatur joħloq dik il-qisu konfużjoni diversion li ttieħ dik il-ftit sekondi biex ikun jista' jaħrab.
A beautiful day at a beautiful reserve, the Għadira Nature Reserve. Don't forget that you can visit Għadira Nature Reserve, Samar Nature Reserve, Salina Nature Reserve, and Foresta 2000 Nature Reserve. So please do enjoy these beautiful places, which are, as nature is, free. Okay, so it doesn't cost you anything. Just a cycle, a walk, or a drive, or if you have your pet giraffe, you can ride your pet giraffe. Whatever means, you don't mind, as long as you come here and enjoy these reserves. Okay. And yes, as a child and a grown man, I always wanted to have a giraffe, but better in the wild than in the garden.
So here we have a
Wow.
different bird.
That's a big bird. Quite nice.
This is
Bigger
called
bird.
Great Warbler. It's the biggest warbler in Europe. It comes from the same family of the Sedge Warbler. It's an Acrocephalus.
That's the scientific name.
Yes, it also stays in the, as its name says, it's great reed. As you can see,
Big.
its toes are positioned in such a way that it can grab twigs and climb up.
On a vertical stem we're talking about.
We use slightly larger rings. So this is an A-sized ring, this is an A-sized ring, and this is a B-sized ring, which can go up to G, H, of course the larger the bird.
Quite stunning. The Maltese, what's the name, Nick?
Bufula.
Tal-Asap. There are no other Maltese ringers around us. We'd like some help, but we'll come back to it. Okay? Maltese.
Tal-Asap is reed warbler. This is great reed.
And that's why knowledge is constant. Meta nsaqsu.
Great reed warbler.
Najdulkom. Asfur sabiħ ħafna, mdaqqas.
Għandu l-kulur tiegħu
u jista' jitla' mal-qasba għax da fil-qasab ibejjed u jgħix jikkaċċja l-insetti. U dak ma tweġġawx, inti qed toffoħlu qed taralu x-xaħam, il-muskoli, forsi jistħi ftit.
Nagħmlu naqra bott, naqra ikbar ukoll.
Tinsewx, ir-rix jagħmlu jidher ikbar l-asfur. Il-laħam u l-muskoli tiskanta kemm ikun iżgħar.
25.6 grams.
Ikun kalm fid-dlam kif qed hemm mhux qed diħel dawl.
Dan għandu għanja, għandu leħnu oħxon ħafna.
Jisu għandu bżonn ħors. Ara bħalissa u naqa' ħawwief u tajr tal-plajja bil-Għadira li tinsewx tistgħu tiġu hawnhekk miftuħin għall-pubbliku il-Foresta 2000 Għadira Nature Reserve, riserva ta' hawnhekk, is-simar, is-salina u b'xejn. Ma tiswilkom xejn ħlief biex tivvjaġġaw. Tistgħu tgawdu ġurnata mal-familja, speċjalment daw iż-żminijiet li l-kampanja hija kruċjali u qed narfu kemm hija importanti tkun barra f'daw il-postijiet fis-serħan. Illum u għada mill-10
sal-4 jkunu miftuħin.
Pubbliku sal-4 ta' wara l-offsinar.
Matul il-ġimgħa niftħu wkoll kważi kuljum barra l-4 hawnhekk. Jekk issegwu fuq kemm il-website tagħna birdlifemalta.org u anke fuq il-Facebook pages tagħna taraw hemmhekk l-opening hours tar-riserve.
L-4 għax itkellimna mal-unions tal-asafar li l-4 l-asafar jistrieħu ma jgħannux jibqgħu mistoħbin fil-arbuxelli ta' għalhekk. Le, qed ngħidulkom in-natura u meta tiġi fir-riservi ma tafux sa ssibu. Tista' timmaġina ovvjament u x'tista' narhom. Fra servjenti għaddejjin. Tista' tistenna ċertu asafar imma dejjem hemm sorpriżi. In-natura hekk sorpriża. Fejn tista' tiġi hawn u f'daqqa waħda tara qata' velarani. Fimti u tara asfur żgħir rari toħodlu ritratt u mbagħad torih lill-bird watcher u jibqa' skantat jgħidlek dak ilu ma jidher snin pereżempju jew l-allu. Daw hija sbuħija. This is the beauty of nature reserve, as we were saying to our Maltese speakers, is that you never know what to expect when you come to a nature reserve. Even in Ringin, it feels like Christmas every day. That's the beauty of it. You might come here, think it's just an ordinary day, and don't forget Saturday and Sunday they're open, reserved from 10 till 4 in the afternoon till in the morning. And you might come here and see a flock of great white egrets or glossy ibises, or find, a grasshopper warbler on a bush, take a photo, show it to a birder, and oh my god, it's a grasshopper warbler. We're still hoping, could be a good day for it. These are rare birds. So even Nick, when he goes ringing, it's not the quantity that only counts, sometimes it's the quality. Having a quiet day and having one rare species makes up for that day.
So this bird has a ring, the ring is quite dirty, so I need to clean it a bit.
Must be a bachelor.
Before reading it.
Would you like some water? I can get some water.
2.
See, Nick makes this look so easy. You know, his ability, practice, the skill of not stressing the bird, not harming the bird. The way he holds the bird, that's passion and being professional to the...
It requires a lot of training as well.
Yes. How long is it to train?
So to become a ringer, you need to at least 2.5 years of training in Malta. We train people as BirdLife Malta, whoever is interested. We train people. Of course, not everyone is cut out to become a ringer, like in everything.
Don't forget, you have to wake up before the sun rises, go to places, and this is the passion.
But after you train, then it becomes sort of second nature for you to handle these birds.
Muscle memory.
And of course, it's important to always be gentle and to know how to handle birds.
As we were saying in English,
not harming them.
Dan, so to the Maltese speakers, dan huwa proċess xjentifiku. U Nick, ftaraħ, iżom l-asfur fidej. B'kapaċità, b'dixxiplina u jaf li mhux qed iweġġa l-asfur u b'konfidenza. Dan iseħħ biss bi-prattika. Fimt li dan biex issir ringer għaw Malta għandek il-fuq minn sentej. Sentej u nofs 3 snin, u vera, Nick.
Ekku, waħda mir raġunijiet hija biex inti jkollok ċans biżżejjed li tiħħendilha ċertu ammont ta' safar biex ovvjament tippraktisja il-prattika il-handling tagħhom. U mbagħad ovvjament ir-raġuni l-oħra hija li inti ċertu safar ikunu hawnhekk f'ċertu żmien tas-sena biss. Allura f'sentej u nofs għandek minn tal-inqas 5 passes, 2 tal-ħarifa, 2 tal-rebbija u posta oħra skont meta tkun bdejt, basically. Eżempju dawn la safar, Sedge Warblers, issa nirringjawhom issa April, Mejju, mbagħad nerġgħu naqbdu ftit minnhom f'Awwissu u Settembru. U mbagħad terġa' tistenna l-passa ta' wara bażikament.
U ma taf sa tinserta wkoll fir-renja. Tista' ssib xi ħaġa li asfur li ilu ma jinqabad snin mill-ringers. Fimt? U għalhekk ukoll meta inti titgħallem mhux taqbad tajt ammur qed tirrenja, tkun ma' xi ħadd li għandu l-liċenzja li qed jgħallmek, ikollok għalliem li hu qed jarak u tibda l-proċess.
Dan huwa bekka fik ieħor.
Garden Warbler.
Kellna wieħed dal-għodu diġà.
Kemm jidher iktar skur qed narah eħe.
Jidher ftit iktar skur dan inserta.
Jivvarjaw bħal bnedmin, għaw speċi ta' safar jivvarjaw. Jina li joġobni ir-raff, ibellaħni. Bil-Malti gerwil leħe. L-irġiel kollhom kuluri fi żmien in-namra tikbirlhom isa il-pjumi bħal is-suf tal-jum. Ma rasu hekk u jkunu kuluri minn iswed, abjad bit-tikek, fimt oranġo, ħamrani, kull kulur tal-bliħ. Ruffs fitxuha u tarawhom. Asfur kbir tal-plajja, ġifri post bħal il-riserva tal-Għadira jiġu hawnhekk. Gurwil. Gurwila mara u gurwil raġel, jew xi ħaġa.
Bil-Malti iktar faċli tista' asfur tagħmlu mara u raġel.
Iżżidlu.
Eżatt, bl-Ingliż jibqa' raff.
Għassek, aħna l-Malti iktar antik. Ancient. Bye, buddy. I could smell the feathers. Beautiful day. Lots of birds coming in. These are smaller birds. We had a honey buzzard fly over earlier in the morning. So quite nice. Quite a push. There's a lot of waders about too. Feeding here mostly little stints.
This is another wood warbler. Quite a feisty one.
There's always one in the family.
It's ringed as well already. In the reserves we ring every day here. It's called a constant effort site. So we monitor the birds coming through every day. and the number of them stay throughout, not throughout, but can spend some days, sometimes maybe a week, feeding before they continue their migration. And it's important for us to note every bird that stays here, and because it gives us information as well on even the habitat, how good the habitat is for certain species, and we can then use that information to improve by knowing what trees to plant.
Exactly.
Because some trees will attract insects at different time of the year. Some trees have fruit at different time of the year. It's important. This is not an agricultural site here, so
Exactly.
so it's not a
A reflection, not a monoculture.
Yeah, so we don't plant the same tree just to say that we have these large amount of trees, which then do not attract not only birds but provide habitat for
Insects and all sorts of animals.
all sorts of wildlife.
That is a very good point, Nick. Don't forget, we're trying to correct the wrongs done in the past and improve the habitat that was degraded or fragmented. Exactly. If it's a tree that produces fruit but we don't eat them, it's not, a useless tree. That fruit could be eaten by birds or else eaten by certain insects, even the flowers pollinated by certain insects that attract other birds and other animals. So this is the amazing thing about reserves and wild habitats. I mean, for me too, what's amazing is these birds could have been feeding in trees and having elephants literally
Exactly.
forage below them, monkeys. I mean, I love that observation you had made of pallid harriers in a field in the savannah, and then not fields, savannas, and then having elephants go through. I mean, that's a raptor, a pallid harrier. We do get them flying through the island during spring.
This is another wood warbler.
Another feisty one too. Such little feet. I mean, look at that. And these have crossed the Sahara Desert, an ocean of sand, and now half done with the Mediterranean Sea, rested in Malta. That's why it's crucial as a stopover, and then they can migrate all the way up to Poland, Finland, Western Russia. And most of the birds we get are central and eastern.
Yes, most of the birds through the rings. We will know that our birds, most of them come through Central and Eastern Europe. In Europe, migration routes, there are three main routes, which is the Western, the Central and the Eastern. Most birds, especially the larger birds, but even smaller birds, they of course try to choose the best route, which is safer, which in terms of the Mediterranean means the shortest distance possible.
Exactly.
On open water, on open sea, and therefore they try and cross either from the west, which is Gibraltar, which is a short stretch, from the east through the Bosphorus, and through the south by crossing over Sicily, and then either they go west through Tunisia or over Malta and then further south.
And most of these birds...
And most of our birds are now going north to Sicily through Italy, and then they distribute through North and Eastern Europe.
So
we had birds from Scandinavia, we had birds from Russia, we had even birds from the west, from the UK and from Spain, but most of these birds we catch them in spring, not in autumn, which means that are probably birds that they spent in Africa. So they went the western route and then somehow they either got lost or joined other birds and are going through the eastern route.
Okay.
We once had a bird, for example, that was ringed in Israel.
Wow.
A swallow that was ringed in Israel and then was heading north through Malta. And Israel, of course, is part of the Eastern Flyway.
Exactly. Don't forget, today being World Migratory Bird Day, these birds have spent the winter in even tropical Africa, jungles, the Congo, the Gambia, Gabon, have crossed Savannah, Sub-Sahara, then deserts, Sahara Desert, across the Mediterranean, as you were saying, trying to find the least amount of sea between land. And then finding Italy, crossing the Apennines, going up, crossing the Alps, and then making it to Central Europe. So all that habitat and range. This house martin flying over us, this northern house martin. I can only imagine what it's seen. So yes, quite beautiful. And if we look at the shoreline, we can see ringed plover, little ringed plover, and little stint. The little ringed plover and the little stint doesn't mean that they're a little bird, a young bird, but they're actually their English name is that. And there's a ringed plover too. So saying ringed plover and little ringed plover are two different species. Not one is a grown up and the other one is a child.
Another wood warbler.
Truly beautiful. And these, don't forget, ecologically they eat so many pest species. They're crucial. And that's why insecticides and pesticides have affected so many populations of species of birds. Songbirds, finches, passerines, like warblers.
This is a very bright rump and fringes to its wings and the tail. Bright face.
Truly stunning. And yeah, quite amazing.
And it weighs 7.8 grams.
Small little hearts, small little brains, but absolutely true survivors. Atma ninsa.
So this is a crowd favorite.
Harach.
One of the most famous birds which we get in Malta. It's the robin. It's not a bird that we usually catch at this time of the year, but we sometimes get these birds. Sometimes are late, basically, and some of them spend the summer here. It is already ringed, so from the ring we will know
exactly
when it arrived and if it's a bird that has been coming to spend some time in the reserve for a number of years.
For exactly years, that's the beautiful thing about it.
Dan l-asfur huwa Peter Ross.
Nafu iktar fix-xitwa.
Eżatt. Normalment jasal f'Ottubru jibqa' magħna bejħed ieħor sa Marzu, però jkun hawn minnhom li jibqgħu ftit tard. Kien hawn minnhom li dal-aħħar jatqattaw is-sajf ukoll. 357 655. Il-Peter Ross normalment naqbdu numru sew minnhom f'Ottubru.
U daw l-asfur, ġifieri, huwa fidil lej normalment anke l-istess ġardina.
Ekku.
L-istess siġra.
Il-Peter Ross huwa asfur li nsibuh fil-ġonna tagħna, fil-ġonna pubbliċi, jekk toħroġ l-ikel fuq il-bird tables. Jiġi kol ma jbejjitx Malta, irrid iktar altitude, irrid iktar frisk biex ibejjet.
Jien nisma' ġifieri jgħidu kienu ibejjed xi darba l-Busquet jew l-Girgent u hekk imma dan rari ħafna.
Fis-sjuf ikun hawn Peter Rossi tismagħhom jgħidu. Anka postijiet bħal eżempju l-Università ma' Ring Road l-ewwel hemm ikun hemm Peter Rossi. Però mir-rekords tagħna ġifieri mir-ringing qatt ma nqabad xi ferħ jew parti mir-ringing fil-fatt huwa dak li inti tikkonferma l-breeding. Jekk asfuret ikun qed ibejjed, anke jekk ikun mistoħbi biex xibka probabbli taqbdu u tkun taf li qed ibejjed anke mill-kundizzjoni tar-rix tiegħu. Bażikament.
Qed tgħid inti il-brood patch bl-Ingliż.
Eżatt. La safar l-asafar, speċjalment in-nisa meta ħajkunu fuq il-bajt jew fuq il-frieħ, fuq il-bejta, jitilfu ħafna mir-rix ta' żaqhom biex meta joqogħdu fuq il-bajt jagħmlu kuntatt dirett mal-ġilda mal-bajt biex isaħnuhom bażikament. Allura meta inti taqbad asfur u tonfoħlu u tara m'għandux rix dak ikun sinjal li jkun qed ibejjed. Dan huwa diżżu bil-Malti, tripipit jissejjaħ bl-Ingliż, għandu ċurkett ukoll. 362
Id-dwifer tiegħu tipikament biex jiġri fuq l-art jaqbad l-insetti. Dan mhux fis-siġar hawnhekk, dan asfur li iva jismu tree pipit.
Ibejjed fis-siġar però qatta ħafna mill-ħin tiegħu feeding, jiġri fittex l-ikel mal-art.
Għalhekk ismu bl-Ingliż għax mhux il-pipits il-maġġoranza ma jbejtu
il-maġġoranza huma safar tal-art basically. Qatta ħafna ħin tagħhom mal-art.
Kuġini ta' tsakak. So Nick was saying this is a tree pipit. It nests in trees, that's why hence its name. Oh, we've got a squawko heron flying overhead. Wow. Not a beautiful squawko heron. Russet tisfar, bil-Malti o jgret tisfar?
Gret naħseb.
Insmajtom etnem ma naħseb igret tisfar.
Huwa tip ta' russet.
Tar minn fuqna. Affaritek ma tkunx taf ta' tistenna. U ejjow u gawdu u għaraw bajnejkom. Issa riservi miftuħin għal-pubbliku. Tinsawx mill-10 ta' filgħodu sal-4 ta' l-ofsinhar ħadd anke għadha jumlhom. Tajdu nġibu il-mama hawnhekk tara naqa' kampanja u xi safar żbir.
Zanzarell ieħor, spotted flycatcher ieħor. Kif għedna dan l-asfur ibejjed Malta, uħobb ibejjed f'ħafna ġonna pubbliċi bħal taqali fejn hemm siġar antiki tal-iżnuber u tal-prinjol tal-ċipress u fej ikollu bżonn l-ilma, fej hemm dawn il-funtani, fej jkun hemm id-drippijiet tas-siġar.
Kif avvalzajna fil-irrigazzjoni u affarijiet hekk, issalvhom għax qatra u naqarbu xelli bl-insetti u fjuri bl-insetti u irabbu familja, jagħmlu l-bejta u vera nek inti.
Ekku.
Il-ġonna Maltin kollha dortom biex tara jekk hawnx xi bejti xi pari.
Parti mix-xogħol tagħna bħala ringers ukoll li nirringjaw l-asafar fil-bejtiet, insibu l-asafar fil-bejtiet, nirringjaw għax meta tirringja asfur ikun għaddu fil-bejta tieħu l-full life history tiegħu mbagħad għax taf eżatt kemm għandu żmien, taf meta faqqas. Allura inti tkun tista' toħroġ eżempju kemm asfur jgħix bejn wieħed u ieħor.
Tinsewx hemm kura u rispett kif iseħħ dan. Importanti, aħna inti ma tridx tagħmel ħsara, titħalli l-post aħjar milli sibtu. Milli kif sibtu. Talking about the local species, nesting species like the spotted flycatcher, another Great Reed Warbler.
Second Great Reed Warbler. Again, it's the largest warbler, l-ikbar bufula tal-Ewropa. Għandu munqaru kbir u b'saħħtu.
Tifakkarni jekk jisu xi tip ta' ċawla, fimt immiżar hekk il-munqaru r-ras tajt anka tajra safra jfakkarni jekk ukoll.
Ir-rix ta' dan la safar alla folja jkunu bidluħ, ikun pjuttost dak li sejjaħ worn out, ikun pjuttost mikul, minħabba li dawn la safar il-ħin kollu għandhom ir-rix tagħhom qed jaħbad mal-qasab u ma' tskuk, eċċetera. ċurkett ta' dan, ċurkett naqra ikbar, size B, minħabba ovvjament li siequ ftit iktar ħoxna.
As Nick was saying to Maltese earlier with the first Great Reed Warbler we ringed, these birds, they're quite beautifully adapted because they can actually even move vertically along the reeds. They feed amongst great reeds, nest, and that's why their feathers are even worn out as much because they're always moving through that vegetation. Quite a stunning bird. For me it reminds me, the big head, like a miniature corvid, a lighter corvid, or even a golden oriole. That thick bill, and it's the largest warbler in Europe. Quite stunning. And the valleys with great reeds would be perfect for this bird. Yes, we wanted to ask the Maltese name.
Bufula Prima.
Bufula Prima, the experience.
Bal Prim.
Bal Prim or Bufula Prima. Ma lessa nafu, grazzi ħafna għalek l-esperienza hija deb. Bufula Prima, jo Bal Prim. ċana konna t-nasbu l-bufula tal-qasab u bdejna hekk, imma dik hija il-Great Warbler, iż-żgħir. Knowledge is constant. And as they say in English, a day that you haven't learned anything is a day wasted. Għalhekk huwa importanti dejjem u għalhekk l-ornitoloġija hija sabiħa tant. Bufula.
Ħuttafa.
Skużani, għat bufula jiena rajt kemm talim huwa importanti.
Ħuttafa l-swallow.
Di mara ara.
Asfur simbolu tista' tgħid tal-passa li passi distanzi twal ħafna u familjari speċjalment fl-Ewropa għax ibejjed ħafna man-nies. Il-fatt jisejjaħ barn swallow u bejjed isib xi bini mimli. Fortunatament dan l-aħħar speċjalment Għawdex għandna popolazzjoni pjuttost tissaħħaħ minnhom ibejtu ħafna f'postijiet rurali, allura Għawdex huwa perfett għalihom.
Kull fejn tmur fl-Ewropa ssibhom bejtiet tat-tafal tal-ħama hekk.
Għandhom il-ġewnaħ tagħhom huwa twil ħafna s-sajs tagħhom. Max huma masters tat-titir dawn, jiġifieri kapaċi jtiru ħafna, kapaċi jtiru fil-għoli, jtiru fil-baxx, għandhom dan il-blu jkanġi sabiħ fuq darhom. U mit-tul ta' dawn jissejħu streamers tal-aħħar rixa ta' dembhom tista' tgħid hekk hux mara jew raġel. F'dal-każ ma tistax tgħid għax huwa overlap, jiġifieri għandek nisa li jkollhom ftit itwal u rġiel li jkollhom ftit iqsar.
Għax jiena mal-ewwel qed mara għax qed fir-rajt tal-in.
Hemm ċans li jkun raġel f'dal każ. Probabbli anzi
iktar raġel.
Jekk inkejluh.
U għalhekk il-barometriċi, il-biometrics. U hemmhekk taċċerta kemm importanti li tagħmel il-proċessi kollha. Jiena
għandu saqaħ huma qosra ħafna. Again għax saqaħ dawn ma jużhomx biex jiekol, ma jużhomx biex jiċċaqlaq, ma jużhom biss biex iserraħ fuqhom, bażikament.
X'jiena kontu għallimtuni dejjem li il-raġel kollu il-pinen ta' demmu.
Ta' dan pjuttost kien kejluha. Kien kejluha.
Għan-nies li qed jaraw id-dar jidru twal imma tittaw.
Bess il-60 millimeters li kont nżomma bil-kontra. Nkejlu ġifieri kemm twila r-rixa hekk. Allura dak huwa raġel.
Skużani, sibtek mara. Ara ħaj passi. U għalhekk huwa importanti dawn l-affarijiet iż-żbuħija ta' l-xjenza, id-disċiplina, rispett u l-professjonalità. Dan qed igerger ftit. I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am or we are, and that you will visit our site and BirdLife International and even come to Malta and visit the reserves or go out into your gardens or local park and just enjoy migrating birds, as today is World Migratory Bird Day, don't forget, and on the move too. So always this campaign, just check our sites and visit the reserves, and don't forget they're free. You know, best things in life are always free. Okay, so do enjoy. Nick would like to say something.
Mela, l-għonet nirringrazzja l-kulħadd li segwina dal-għodu f'din il-live ringing session. Provajna nurukom ftit mix-xogħol u mill-hobby wkoll tagħna li nagħmlu hawnhekk. Kif qal Nimrod, riservi huma miftuħin, si oħra hawnhekk ikun miftuħ. Ġifieri nistidnukom tiġu hawnhekk biex taraw l-asafar. Bħalissa wieħed mill-aħjar żmien biex tiġi hawnhekk biex tara l-asafar ir-riserva mimlija ħajja bħalissa. U kif qal Nimrod ukoll il-kampanja tagħna On the Move li għamilna throughout il-passa fir-rebbija fejn qsamna magħkom diversi events, diversi filmati, diversi affarijiet fejn stajtu tgawdu il-passa magħna. Nħeġġukom toħorġu fil-kampanja u tgawdu n-natura u tgawdu l-aħħar ftit tal-passa tal-asafar tal-rebbija. Għandna ħutta oħra hawnhekk. Din hija mara għax għandha ir-rix ta' demba huma iqsar sew minn tal-oħra jekk inkejluh, ġur tal-oħra jekk inkejlu l-fork kienet taqbes il-60 ta' din ma tasalx sa 40 millimeters.
Il-raġel li kellna, ikun hawn ħutta firġiel li kollhom.
Ija, jkun hawn minnhom ikun ħafnitu, għal ġifieri bħal dak ikollok bżonn tkejlu ma traħx daqshekk fuq għajnik. Ovvjament bl-esperjenza mbagħad tibda tiġġaġġa aħjar.
Għajdu għati x-xogħol il-min jaf jagħmlu l-ħobs il-min jaf jieklu.
U l-ħattafa kif għedna jasfur li tpassi tinżel anka
l-Afrika tisfel.
Is-South Africa, eżatt, ġi tibqa' nieżla. U dawn l-asafar il-vantaġġ tagħhom huwa li jistgħu jieklu on the fly, ġifieri jekk isibu xi insett huma passu kemm prattikament jiekluh.
Nixtiequ ngħidulkom il-pija tal-ġurnata tajba u nirringrazzjakom talli qed tarawna l-għodwa u tinsewx illum huwa il-jum tat-tajr migratorju u nixtiequlkom il-pija tal-ġurnata tajba. Grazzi.